Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 1289, written by Sky Penguin 8 Matt. A total stranger knew my password? Back in elementary school, I had an iPod Touch. I changed my password the night before school. My brother saw my old password, and by the time I was on the bus to school, I forgot it. Nobody at school could have known the password. When I was talking to the person next to me about the password, the person sitting in front of me didn't know him, just said 4 numbers, and it worked. It was the password. No clue how he knew. Still amazes me and creeps me out today. Case notes are file 1289. A total stranger knew my password? Sure, there are proficient hackers out there who can parse out private information using exploits in software and operating systems. Now, is the random lad in middle school on a bus one of them? I'm going to go with nope. Is it a coincidence? No way. Of course, the reason they said these numbers at all is overhearing your conversation, but to guess it the first try when the password was just changed the night before, it can't be a guess. In these weird moments where it can't be a coincidence, but there's no real reason for any being to intervene, provide this information, honestly I have no clue what caused it. Somehow that young mind just knew the information, it was harpooned in. It's very strange. Bonus file written by God1643, A Paranormal Pregnancy. I remember being told about this story by my mom when she was teaching me to drive, as a way to stress how weird the stretch of road near us is. I'm pretty skeptical of stuff by nature, but she grew up here and she knows it's bad. She heard it from her mother, who knew the woman involved. So you're getting this as a third or even fourth-hand account? And I'm modifying names of people close to me? Treat that as you will. I have less details on this because it wasn't my own story. I just asked my mom for a recount, and she herself doesn't have all that much in terms of detail, and I don't feel like waiting on a snail mail from my grandma for the whole thing. There's homes up on that hill. It's a pretty well-to-do area, so they aren't shacks, but they aren't mansions either, and they aren't large plots of land. So everyone kind of knows everyone. At the end of the street, by the church, is a little ma and pa shop of baked goods with an apple orchard, and then the church, and then another main road. The stretch of road Mom told me not to drive on is between that ma and pa shop and the first main road. It used to be a dirt road back when this happened, only really used for tractors and the rare grocery run from the people living on the road. It's summer, 1959. My grandmother, G, her mother, M, their friend Ann, and his husband Ronald are all in their car. Ronald is freshly shaven from the barber, as the reason they left, and the barber had a salon next door where the woman spent some social time as Ron did his business there. They drive slowly down the road and honk before every corner. It's a lot of blind corners even now, and it was worse back then. Even I do that on foggy nights now. They get about halfway down, near the right side cut, which leads to another road we'll call F Road. Further down is K Road, where I turn to the left to get to my road and my home now. They turn the corner and see a woman. She's wearing a pale sundress, hanging to her knees, slightly indecent at the time according to Mom, has a large sun hat clutched in her hand, another hand on her stomach, a bit of brown something on her legs, and is waddling down the road. She is heavily pregnant, as in 7 to 8 months. G tells Ron to pull over and ask if she's alright, but he's already doing it. He pulls in behind the woman and hops out, asking if she's alright. It's as he gets close that he notices it's not mud on her legs, it's blood. When he gets her attention enough to meet her eyes, she's insensate, lolling her neck like a bobblehead and muttering. She sees him and kinda jumps in place like she's startled, and falls backwards. Ron can't catch her in time, but he asks her if she needs a ride as he picks her up. She says something in return. It sounds vaguely affirmative, so he tells G and Ann to make space in the back bench of the car and sets her in. He turns the car around and makes for the main road in the direction of the church, nearer to where my encounter happened. The hospital is a 15 or 20 minute drive now, probably closer to half an hour back then. My grandma is sitting beside this woman, and she turns to face her. The woman has almost crossed her legs, but looks uncomfortable in the position. She's picking at her legs, scraping at the scabs. G tries to tell her not to do that, but she won't listen. As soon as the skin is clear of scabs and a bit of actual mud, cuts begin appearing on her legs. As in appearing, not being revealed from under the scabs. The scabs reveal fresh, healed, lily-white skin, which is immediately covered again in clean, linear lines of blood. The woman begins murmuring, but she doesn't sound pained. It's only when my grandma, in confused horror, reaches out to see if the wounds are really there, that the woman catches her wrist. "Don't let him in, you two," she says, and the lines turn to slashes, cutting deeper into the woman's calf. The woman groans and lets go of Grandma's hand. "He's angry. Don't touch me, he'll get mad." From there, her head lolls back against the headrest and doesn't say another coherent word the whole rest of the ride. G spends the whole time worriedly murmuring with Anne, and whenever G looks forward, Ron is driving too fast and his hands are white-knuckled. He's not looking all that good, and as G watches, a slash appears on his skin, on the back of his forearm where his shirt is rolled up. They drop the woman off at the hospital and give their story. The doctors look at G and Anne like they're crazy. It's only when Ron shows him their arm that they take it seriously. Sexism, according to G. And Anne snaps at the doctor for being a blind, jug-eared, cotton-stuffed moron. The important thing is the damn woman and her child. We still use that insult jovially in the family, so I know that quote better than the rest. The next Sunday, Ron goes in early to church, arms all bandaged, and collapses about halfway through the sermon. He shakes on the ground for a while. There's a doctor in the crowd who puts him on the side thinking it's a seizure, and Ron vomits up blood before passing out. Apparently, after they rushed him to the hospital, they found out the sliced skin had gotten worse, his arms were in bad shape, and it's only when the woman, kept under observation but they were willing to let her walk around, asked to visit his room to thank him, and she talks to him for a while that the cuts stop appearing. G, or her friend Anne for that matter, and Anne was his wife for 43 years until he died, could never get Ron to tell him what the woman said, but he did say, never miss a day in church. He lost a job to keep those Sundays, and he said, "I'd rather die in that church than live outside." I always thought that last bit was weird, but now I'm thinking, what if it wasn't just religious fervor, but he genuinely believed he was actually safer in that church? Case notes for the bonus file. A paranormal pregnancy. Blind, jug-eared, cotton-stuffed moron. Why does this insult flow so fluid? Shakespeare wrote it himself. I will be stealing this line. What did she say to him, I do wonder, though? Perhaps her own faith in God was what she believed saved her, and she imparted that into Ron, working through all of you, I guess. And then, how would this affect Ron, with sliced flesh appearing on himself with no source? This is one of the creepier spiritual accounts I've heard. Even expert demonologists aren't afraid of spirits and demons usually. The amount of harm they can do to us is supposedly very little. And I mean, this applies in all stories I've read. It's very rare for a spirit to be able to harm someone like this. But as with everything in life, there are always exceptions, aren't there? Whatever or whoever that pregnant lady was afraid of was very powerful and sadistic. Mixed with the potency of love, maybe it was a father of the pregnant woman. Maybe he died somehow, maybe by her hand as he was hurting her. Maybe that kind of emotion is as powerful as it gets. The familial betrayal, love, furious hatred, all mixed together is enough to actually push through and harm people. You need some sort of very powerful emotion to accomplish that, I think. And now time for the quote of the day. Anarchism is founded on the observation that since few men are wise enough to rule themselves, even fewer are wise enough to rule over others. Edward Abbey. Well, yeah, anarchy isn't the colloquial use of it, where anarchy is just synonymous with chaos. What it really means is no rulers over you. It's hard to broach into that mindset where everyone seems to have a ruler right now. We can't live in a country like, maybe if we go to Mars or another planet, I know I just want to be free. And it's hard to live in a world where most people don't really, deep down, buy their choices. But anarchy is not chaos. I guess that's the first step to change the paradigm of how people view it. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.